Hello, welcome. Today we're going to go over Southeast Asia Past and Present, Chapters 1 and 2 by Dr. Dr. SarDesai, who is formerly chairman of the Southeast Asian Studies Department at UCLA. Your class you're taking is Anthropology of Southeast Asia. All right, today's learning objectives is that you will learn the weather of Southeast Asia. You're also going to learn about the early Southeast Asian people. You're also going to learn about the early history of Southeast Asia. Also, you're going to learn about the early history of Southeast Asian kingdoms. The land and its people. The term Southeast Asia is of recent origin. It became popular during World War II. It actually included Sri Lanka, but excluded Philippines. Today, the term does include the Philippines, and actually does not include, some people don't include Sri Lanka. They think of that as outer India. Some books called this area Southeast Asia, right? Because it's between India and China. They call it Greater India or Little China. So there is massive Sino, which means China, Sino-Indian influence. Once again, massive Sino-Indian influence. So what are the countries that make up Southeast Asia? Thailand, Myanmar, formerly called Burma, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, East Timor, Brunei, and Singapore. Now, if you look at a map of Southeast Asia, you see it's quite large and quite diverse, right? There's very huge influences from, of course, India and China, but look how Philippines, there's thousands of islands, right? And it's very much influenced by its surrounding seas, right? You see East Timor, right? Very much by itself, but of course, very influenced by Indonesia, right? You see Muslim states such as Brunei and Malaysia, right? That are very much influenced by India. So very interesting and and you see the countries that are closer to India are more influenced by India. The ones that are more closer to China are more closely aligned. But again, they're all influenced very much by both China and India. The land and its people. The term Southeast Asia, which I mentioned earlier, was invented during World War II. It actually, and we talked about, it wasn't including Philippines, but now it does, and now we don't include Sri Lanka, okay? It includes many different countries that went over. There's a huge ecological setting, and you have to understand Southeast Asia is that it's geographically in between the tropics, okay? And two things I want you to really understand, because it's very crucial to understand Southeast Asia, is this concept of mainland Southeast Asia, right? And insular Southeast Asia, okay? Mainland is Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Diverse mountain ranges and rivers. Insular Southeast Asia is Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Indonesia, Philippines, and East Timor or Timor-Leste, okay? So basically mainland is more inside the land, and insular is more outside in terms of it is actually very impacted because by other countries, because it's very easy to get to, right? Kind of think of it as more outside the main areas. Now, prehistoric roots. So my archaeology students will love this. So there's a lot of archaeological records that indicate that Southeast Asia is at least a few million years old. So for instance, if your family is from Southeast Asia, you've been there for a long time, but if you're a recent migrant, maybe like a couple thousand years, then it's recent. But lots of archaeological research that's been here millions of years. Now, the oldest skull was found in Mojokerto in eastern Java, which is Indonesia, belonging to Homo erectus, and that was 1.4 million years ago. Fascinating. Now, China supplied most of the inhabitants to Southeast Asia. So if you are from Southeast Asia, it's most likely that your family came from China. It was not called China back then because they were talking about a million years ago, but whatever the area was, those people left what is now China and they moved into Southeast Asia. Now, the largest ethnic group that's located in Vietnam, Cambodia, and the Philippines is one of the largest ethnic groups still is Chinese ethnic groups, and they actually have had a perpetual migration. So it's not just migration from a million years ago, but it's 100, 200, 300 year migration as well. So you see Southeast Asia is very diverse and not very homogenous. It has lots of different people. A lot of the indigenous come from India. All right, the main thing is so interesting is cultural heritage, right? Put your hands up if you're from Southeast Asia. Now, if you're from Southeast Asia, you probably didn't know this, but it's so fascinating. But there's two countries that affect your land and your cultural background the most, which is, say it with me, China and India. Now, if you are from Cambodia, take a look at their traditional clothes. Now, to me, when I look at that, that's not Korean clothes or traditional Chinese clothes. It is very Indian looking, right? So you look at the traditional clothes of Cambodia and it's very Indian. Now, anyone who's eaten kapoon, oh my God, if you haven't eaten it, please try it. It's delicious. This chicken heavenly hug to you. It's a chicken noodle soup. It's a hug from the land of hugs. Anyway, if you love this soup, and many of my students love this soup, well, where is curry from, guys? Curry's not from China. Curry's from India, right? So it's in your language, it's in your clothes, it's in your food. Very much influenced. And a lot of people don't know that Southeast Asia is so influenced by India. Now, if you have a tiger parent, right, and your parents are asking, to get better grades, okay, blame nobody but this gentleman right here, which is Confucius. So all of Southeast Asia, all of Asia actually, not just Southeast Asia, but all of Asia is influenced by this lowly, during his lifetime, he was considered a failed academic. He didn't make it big. He just died in kind of obscurity, but his actual students actually pushed his philosophy up and actually wrote down what he said, okay? His name was Confucius. And he was born in 145 BC, died 86 BC. Now, Confucius was an influential Chinese philosopher, teacher, and political figure, known for his models of social interaction, such as follow your parents, follow your husband, follow your son. If you're under those kind of genderized norms, right, look no further and blame no further than this gentleman right here, Confucius. Everyone knows that Confucius has very much influenced all of Southeast Asia, and also East Asia and all of Asia. Asia is a book culture. All of Asia is very much into book learning and into learning, right? And it's because of this guy, Confucius. He said, you have to learn, you have to study, you should do well. You should be a positive person. You should be humble. You should help your family and help others. And you should be a person that actually protects people who, and teach people who need help, right? So he was a beneficial person and, and very much influential, but he died in not well known, and he died thinking he was kind of not successful. But actually, if you look now, it's every single Asian country follows his, and I'm sure your parents somehow follow his teaching. So very influential. Now, again, back to the Sino-Indian influences. Now we have high influence of indigenous population. So a lot of the indigenous people in Southeast Asia are from India, and the culturally norms, their clothes, their food, their language, is from India, okay? Now they began in the beginning of the Christian era, 2 or 3 centuries after BCE. They succeeding centuries saw a very large spread of Indian culture. Now, if you are Buddhist, if you even adopt some shamanism, if you adopt any type of those Islam, those are all from India, right? Not so much indigenous shamanism, because that's actually from indigenous areas, but one could link that there's some similarity, okay? All right. So India brings Islam to southern Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. Indonesia is the most populated Muslim country in the world. That is mind-blowing. A lot of people think, oh, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, all these, Dubai, but no, the biggest Muslim country on the planet is Indonesia. All right, let's look at some beautiful architecture, right, from Indonesia. Just the the Anar Temple in Taiping. Beautiful. Look at these influences you see. These are not from, if anyone's interested or is kind of art history major, you can see these are not East Asian influences. This you can find in Cambodia. You can find this in India, right? This architecture you plainly can see is 100% influenced by India. Beautiful. And I hope you one day can travel there. Really cheap to travel there, actually. Very, very cheap. All you have to do is get an airfare of $600 or sometimes $400. I've seen $300 round trips to Indonesia. Once you get there, 50 cents a bowl or $1 a bowl of noodles, you're good to go. Just get there. You're gonna have the best time ever. All right, China's effect on Southeast Asia, the people, the culture, and tributaries. Now, China's had a huge effect on Southeast Asia. Remember, they called it Little China. During the Han, particularly during the Han Dynasty, that was a time where the effect of Greater China rose. So basically, Southeast Asia, quote unquote, recognized China's superiority and set tributaries or gifts to China. So this also included Japan and Korea. Every year, whatever bounty you had, you'd have to donate it or give it, forced probably, to the Chinese king, right? You can even see in their clothes, only Chinese kings could wear gold, where you see other kings were not allowed to wear gold, such as Korea, because that's the only color that the Chinese king can wear. Now, millions of Chinese throughout time, centuries, have migrated into Southeast Asia. So you have the initial kind of population that's originally from what is now China, but then you have succeeding hundreds and hundreds of years of current migrants. So just a big ongoing stream of migrants from China into Southeast Asia. All right, so we have 4 dominant religions in Southeast Asia. We have Hinduism, which is Malaysia and Indonesia. You have Islam. Okay, let me just take myself out. All right, you have Muslim, which is Brunei, Philippines, and Indonesia. You have Buddhism, which has Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand. You have Catholicism, right? Philippines in the north, Vietnam, okay? There's also shamanism, okay? So very much these are the 4 dominant religions in Southeast Asia. So if you have time, I'd like you to pause the screen and I'd like you to answer these questions. The questions are: 1, what countries make up Southeast Asia? 2, what are the Southeast Asian weather patterns? 3, what 2 countries have the greatest influence in Southeast Asia? And 4, what are the 4 major Southeast Asian religions? So please pause and answer these questions. All right, let's go to chapter 2, early kingdoms and mainland Southeast Asia. So chapter 2, the main cause of principalities and kingdoms is because of what? What are the 2 main causes of these kingdoms and these principalities? You are right. It's agricultural and trade. Now, the second thing is the challenge of monsoons. Now, it's very monsoon season in Southeast Asia, very hot and humid. You know, I have lots of students who've gone there. I've been there many times, and it's really funny. You actually work a full day during monsoons. I used to work in Hong Kong, and it was, I had to work till monsoon 8, and they said you have to work till monsoon 8. Once it gets over 8, okay, but 1 to 2 and 3, you're basically being like swept away while walking. But you still have to work, by the way, and people do. They just work during the monsoons. All right, so agriculture and trade bring in a lot of people and ideas. So if you take a look, they've had a long history of agriculture, and because of those luscious monsoons, they grow a lot of things, right? Rice and lots of different kinds of vegetables. And you see the trade was endless, right? The insular countries of Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, people are always traveling in a boat, and when they're traveling in a boat, they're going to hit these insular Southeast Asian countries, and what's going to happen? People are going to exchange ideas. They're going to exchange lots of different things. All right, we talked about it. Monsoon, it's hot and humid, right? And people just get used to it, and life goes on. But that is something you have to know about Southeast Asia. It's a perennial, which means every year you're gonna have massive monsoon season, and you just get used to it. House floods out, oh well, keep going. I actually even saw last year, sometimes I play for my class, a monsoon wedding. There were those, the bride, the water was up to her knees, but she was getting married in her dress. Quite beautiful. All right, so let's look at the earliest Southeast Asian kingdoms, which is Funan Champa. Okay, so Funan, a Hindu nation. So you see the Indian influence right now. Funan, a Hindu nation, probably the earliest arrivals of non-Khmer people, the Chams, a Malay race. Okay, so you see a lot of just movement of people around Southeast Asia, just in and out, in and out. Now, Champa is a Sanskrit name. But again, Sanskrit is from India, right? So you see even the naming of these places is Indian, of Southeast Asian. There's lots of hostility with China, right? Because, you know, tributaries, etc. Okay. Then you have the Khmer Empire. It took over the Funis and were called Khmers based on king's divine power. Now, because the Khmer hydraulic systems, there was a high and there was a high and also a decline. Okay, they were very advanced in their agriculture system, very advanced in their hydrologic systems, very much. And they had the Khmers had a great dam and agriculture system. There was a rise and then a decline. So overburden in the building projects, right? The royalty just built and built more monuments to themselves, right? Which, you know, caused a lot of distress among the working class because they're working and making these monuments and dying on the spot. There's also wars with the other kingdoms, such as the Champas. And during this time, the spread of Buddhism that did not believe in, quote, gods, right? Because if you're thinking about India, right? India has multiple gods, hundreds of gods, right? If you're thinking about Hinduism and other gods, okay? So Buddhism is a little different. And Champs to the east and Thais to the west took land. So you see that all this like infighting in this area between different Southeast Asian groups. Now, Myanmar and Burma. Myanmar is closest to India, very much influenced in the culture, religion, and politics, even now. Burma now, you know, changed, is called Burma now, founded a city in 847, converted the population to Buddhism. Okay, so that is very intense. Of course, Buddhism, what country is it from? You were right, India. All right, so Vietnam has a love-hate relationship with China. Very interesting about Vietnam is Vietnam really didn't have too much Indian kind of incursion. They actually very actively prevented and said no, they do not want any Indian influence. And in fact, they said that they wanted to be more influenced by China. So, it's very close to China, like touching China. And so they very much love the culture, the teaching, the religion, the language, the poetry, but they hated the political dominance. So Vietnam and China have had some wars because, you know, at some point, China believed that Vietnam was part of their nation state. Of course, Vietnam and the various people who lived there were against that fact, even though the original inhabitants were from China, quote unquote. All right, so learning outcomes. You learned about the weather of Southeast Asia. You learned about the early Southeast Asian people. You learned about the early history of Southeast Asia, and you learned about the early history of Southeast Asian kingdoms. Please email me if you have any questions. Great, have a wonderful day.